Trump goes next level fascist.
Is he vulnerable?
Let's talk about it, y'all. Middle America. Well, look, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Thank you very much for coming. If you want to actually interact with your boy, it's facebook.com/America Middle. And you'll be able to...
Not for the faint of heart.
It's not for the faint of heart. It's a free speech environment. And
even you took a break from it for a little bit.
I did. I took a break from it. That's the glory of the internet. You can choose when to engage and when to disengage. Anyway, if anybody familiar with this program knows that I have a very, very nuanced view of Trump, especially as regards his race. Now, I'm not a fan of saying Trump is literally Hitler and all the other nonsense that comes out from the left. I'm just using it as a lazy catch-all term. I've documented and tracked the hypocrisy that happens with the Democratic Party. You talk about racism and the damage that has been done to my community, politically speaking, by the Democratic Party, yada, yada, yada. However, things got so bad for the DNC that you had people like Sori, who converted to voting for Trump, and then you had the great Isabel Jimenez.
Wait a minute. I have always been Republican. And then being around you, I kind of got more of an open-minded, and then I heard about Bernie and Bernie stands and the different things that he was doing, and so I actually was swayed from the Republican Party of my heritage. Yeah. My family always votes Republican. I was swayed away from that, and I became a Bernie person, and then.
But the DNC screwed up everything so horribly that even Sori jumped ship and is now a pro-Trump person. And the great Isabel Jimenez, who was actually on Bernie's team, was on the street team, knocking doors, preaching the gospel of Bernie. She jumped ship and converted to Trumpism because of just how horrific the DNC was in their disregard and disrespect for their own constituency.
Yeah.
And then this week happened. And Izzy has now jumped off the Trump ship. And there's been some really interesting bedfellows. So here is Mr. Trump's response to the George Floyd situation and then the commensurate riots that happened. Let's hear what the big homie has to say.
Today I have strongly recommended to every governor to deploy the National Guard in sufficient numbers that we dominate the streets. Mayors and governors must establish an overwhelming law enforcement presence until the violence has been quelled. If a city or state refuses to take the actions that are necessary to defend the life and property of their residents, then I will deploy the United States military and quickly solve the problem for them. I am also taking swift and decisive action to protect our great capital, Washington, D.C. What happened in this city last night was a total disgrace. As we speak, I am dispatching thousands and thousands of heavily armed soldiers, military personnel, and law enforcement officers to stop the rioting, looting, vandalism, assaults, and the wanton destruction of property. We are putting everybody on warning. Our 7 o'clock curfew will be strictly enforced. Those who threaten innocent life and property will be arrested, detained, and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Oh my gosh!
I want the organizers of this terror to be on notice that you will face severe criminal penalties and lengthy sentences in jail. This includes Antifa and others who are leading instigators of this violence. One law and order, and that is what it is. One law. We have one beautiful law. And once that is restored and fully restored, we will help you we will help your business, and we will help your family. America is founded upon the rule of law. It is the foundation of our prosperity, our freedom, and our very way of life. But where there is no law, there is no opportunity. Where there is no justice, there is no liberty. Where there is no safety, there is no future. We must never give in to anger or hatred. If malice or violence reigns, then none of us is free. I take these actions today with firm resolve and with a true and passionate love for our country. By far, our greatest days lie ahead.
This guy's crazy. Do you hear him? He said that our prosperity was founded on the law. The law brought our prosperity.
Law and order.
No, sir. Oppression and injustice did. What in the world? What history book does he read it?
It's the same history
and
book.
And he literally never said anything about what instigated this entire thing.
Well, this is a clip. He did play lip service. Oh, it's horrible. George Floyd's family. I hope he gets justice. Da da da. I'll just be running a little clip underneath here of all the police actions that have taken place since the so-called riots ensued. And I don't need to tell you guys, I'm sure you guys have seen it, the many video clips in which black protesters are telling white protesters, stop doing the graffiti stuff, stop smashing shit, they're gonna come after us.
This is not a black woman who's putting Black Lives Matter. I just want you to know that when... Right, but y'all doing that for us and we ain't asked you to do that.
Are there black rioters who are pissed off and destroying property? I'm sure. Are there some dangerous folks out there? I'm 100% sure. But this man just said, our nation was founded on law and order. Actually, your nation was actually founded by people who were so upset about taxes that they threatened the life of an individual. Here, let's go down memory lane for some American history, shall we? This is this is the History Channel, and the title of the document is
Who Were the Sons of Liberty?
Who Were the Sons of Liberty? Let's just walk down memory lane, shall we? So here's what happened. There is this thing called the Stamp Act. Now, a lot of people trace the Sons of Liberty to the Tea Party, but these guys were actually functioning well before the Tea Party. But let's talk. The Stamp Act, 1765, the first tax imposed directly on American colonists by the British government, had only been in effect for a month when a group of Boston merchants and craftsmen sent a letter to Andrew Oliver, the newly appointed official collector of stamps. The group informed Oliver that he was to show up the next day at noon at the Liberty Tree in the city's south end to publicly resign. Provided that you comply with the above, you shall be treated with the greatest politeness and humanity, the letter explained. The message left to Oliver's imagination what terrible fate might befall him if he did not comply. So what happened was the British imposed the first taxes, and they basically mafia-style threatened this dude that, hey, show up here and resign. If not, ... And of course, members of this group were Samuel Adams, John Hancock, Paul Revere, etc., etc. After Parliament passed the Townshend Acts in 1767, which imposed import duties on goods such as china and glass, Adams organized a boycott to keep British goods out of Massachusetts altogether. According to Adams' biographer, Dennis Frayden, the Sons enforced the boycott by sending boys to smash the windows and smear excrement on the walls of local shops that did not comply. If that didn't work, the proprietor faced the risk of being kidnapped, tarred and feathered, a painful, humiliating torture that could leave lasting scars. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, these people this is the mafia. You know, we've been looking at the mafia.
Yeah.
They go up to the store and they say, hey, we're doing this boycott. And the guy says, well, that's good for you, but I'm a big capitalist, and so I'm going to continue. I'm not taking part in your boycott. They said, word. So then the boys would show up, and literally, maybe that's where boycott came from. The boys would show up, destroy this dude's property, spread excrement all over the place, and if the guy said, you know what? I can replace the window and wash off the poop. You know what they did? They kidnapped him. This is law and order. It's been hilarious to watch white people ignorant of their history talking about, well, we didn't do any looting. Well, let's see what History Channel has to say. Oh, look at this. It is not hard to understand why Gage took a hard line against them. After forming in the summer of 1765, the Boston Suns chapter marched through the streets and burned Stamp Officer Oliver's effigy and then broke into and looted his house. When Massachusetts Lieutenant Governor and Chief Justice Thomas Hutchinson, a loyalist, that is somebody who did not want to go to war with Britain, declined to renounce the Stamp Act, they similarly looted and destroyed his house as well. So I'm sorry, this country was not founded on law and order, Mr. Trump. This country was founded on white folks who did not want their slave labor revenue taxed. So what they did was they looted, they destroyed, they used intimidation tactics, they burned people in effigy, which is a death threat, they kidnapped people, and they destroyed people's property with mafioso tactics. That's how this country gained its independence, so Mr. Trump.
What are you talking about?
Unbelievable. And you know, I had to shoot a video reading this article for some folks in Middle America who did not have a very good understanding of their country or where they came from. What do you think the Suns would have done if you would have had British troops kneeling on the neck of a colonist for 8 straight minutes?
Right.
If these dudes were willing to raise this type of hell over taxes, what do you think would have happened if they would have been an Eric Garner or a George Floyd version?
Yep.
Unfreaking believable. Well, now look, I know what you're going to say. Because I know a lot of right-wingers they're very sensitive, and any criticism of Trump, they immediately go, that's because you're a leftist. What about George Mattis? What about Mattis? James Mattis. You guys know who Mattis is, right? Mattis is a legend in the Marine Corps. An absolute and total legend.
Okay.
Like right now, my brother would kid up and go anywhere Mattis told him to go. Like, dudes loved him. And he was the one that is a very legendary speech when he was talking to the Iraqis. And he was saying, look, we're going to work with you guys. And we're going to go wreck shop. And he goes, but if you cross us, he says, I'm begging you with tears in my eyes, I will kill every single one of you. Like, he's a bad man. This is not a leftist. Mattis is not he's not a bleeding heart liberal. Mattis is a stone cold killer. And he's literally a killer. Here's what Mattis said. When I joined the military some 50 years ago, I swore an oath to support and defend the Constitution. Never did I dream that troops taking that same oath would be ordered under any circumstance to violate the constitutional rights of their fellow citizens, much less to provide a bizarre photo op for the elected commander-in-chief with military leadership standing aside. He goes on to implicitly criticize the current Secretary of Defense, Mark Esper, and other senior officials as well. We must reject any thinking of our cities as a battle space that our uniformed military is called upon to dominate.
That's crazy.
At home, we should use our military only when requested to do so on very rare occasion by state governors. Militarizing our response, as we witness in Washington, D.C., sets up a false conflict between the military and civilian society. It erodes the moral ground that ensures a trusted bond between men and women in uniform and the society they're sworn to protect, and of which they themselves are a part. Keeping public order rests with civilian, state, and local leaders who best understand their communities and are answerable to them. Mr. Trump just got on here and said, hey, if you won't militarize your... First of all, the police themselves are already a militarized group, for God's sake. I mean, you've seen these people. They're all kitted up like they're on patrol in the route.
Yeah, but he said he wants them dominated.
Right. And Trump mentions, to my knowledge, maybe somebody can correct me, but you got these guys in these police who are shooting people in the face with rubber bullets.
I saw this girl's leg all tore up from the rubber bullet.
Red, yellow, black, or white. They're arresting media, which is a form of a war crime, by the way. They're suppressing the media. They arrested a anchor on CNN live on TV. The cameras were there and everything.
No way.
And these folks still arrested them. So we've already got a police force that is way out of control. These guys know nothing about de-escalation. Anybody that's actually ever served in a wartime situation in combat knows that your ROE makes it so that if you were to kneel on a combatant who's already restrained for 8 minutes and you took his life, you know damn well what's going to happen to you. I mean, these guys, when they're in combat, they got to go out there afterward and then explain and justify every person that they kill. Mm-hmm. Okay? To the point where even I'm like, we should kind of pull this back a little bit because I don't want dudes thinking that because I want them to come home. Mm-hmm. But these guys, they would never be able to do something like that. And here come the police, and he says nothing. What he says is, we need more force.
Yeah.
We need more force. Mr. Trump, you're out of your mind. Now, you know it's really, really bad when this happens. Here's Pat Robertson, okay? Pat Robertson, who I have said for many, many times that this man needs to get off TV. Listen to what Pat Robertson said.
You know, there's a purpose of everything under heaven, we read in the Bible, and there's a time, and it seems like now is the time to say, I understand your pain, I want to comfort you, I think it's time we love each other. But the president took a different course. He said, I am the president of law and order, and he issued a heads up. He said, I'm ready to send in military troops if the nation's governors don't act to quell the violence that has rocked American city. As a matter of fact, he spoke of them as being jerks. You just don't do that, Mr. President. It isn't cool.
Pat Robertson is saying, it's not a bleeding heart liberal.
He said he called them jerks?
yeah, he did. It's just, that's...
Trump.
Trump is really, he's vulnerable. His handling of COVID was not good. And
this is just crazy.
You know, there's the folks most affected by COVID are also the demographic who is most likely to vote. Mm-hmm. That's the old people.
Right.
And he didn't handle that well, and he just made a complete, absolute foobar of this entire situation. What a disaster, and what an opportunity! Look, he didn't have to do a lot. You know what?
This is wild. I can't believe this.
You know all Trump had to do? You know what he had to do? Here's what he had to do. Because the day before, Killer Mike got up. Killer Mike's from Atlanta. Yeah. He got up and he told the rioters, stop destroying property, go home, da-da-da-da-da. And then, he's doing the Black Power thing, blah, 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 yada. Here's all Trump had to do. This would have got him a landslide. All Trump had to do is hold a joint press conference with Killer Mike. And all Trump had to do is say, okay, Mike, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to go and I'm going to talk about the police brutality. I'm going to talk about these cops shooting people in the face with rubber bullets. I'm going to talk about how these officers need de-escalation and violence training. You talk, and then I'm going to say, shout out to the peaceful protesters today. Now you go and tell those black folk or whoever it is destroying stuff, and you can even talk about the white folks destroying stuff, and you tell them not to do that shit, and then you say shout out to the good cops and da-da-da-da-da. Okay? And then we'll move forward. That's all you had to do! Everybody would have loved it. Everybody would have loved it.
Obviously a very controlling person.
Now look, here's the problem, right? Here's the problem. Bernie has said Trump is the most dangerous president we've had. Mm-hmm. And I've been like, man, come on,
what did he do?
What has he done? What has he done? What has he done?
This is over the top.
Well, now he has just provided evidence to where all these people can say, look, he also is saying he's going to designate Antifa as a terrorist organization. Let me tell you something, Mr. Trump. I'm no fan of Antifa. I don't think I've ever said a positive word about Antifa in my entire career in front of a camera. I have never once said anything even... I know a guy that's probably an Antifa, and I have nothing nice to say about Antifa, ever. Mm-hmm. Okay? The only other group of people, aside from these white supremacists that I'm around, that's really testing my pacifism The only other group that's ever really made me question my pacifism is these idiots from Antifa. I have no love in my heart whatsoever for these people. However, Antifa brilliantly. Now, whoever's running this group, now these people come out, they say, there's nobody running Antifa. Antifa's an ideology. Stop it. Please. I'm not going to go.
Non-denomination.
Yeah. I'm not going to get into my background. All I'm going to tell you is this is nothing new, okay? This is a very commonly used tactic that is used so that you can not locate where the leadership is and things of that nature. So
they did it on Walking Dead. Remember that?
Yeah, and there have been other groups in America where that has been the case. But the reason it's so brilliant to take that tactic is because now he's saying, I'm going to label these people a terrorist organization. They're not an organization, though. They don't have a Washington, D.C. They're even better at it than Al-Qaeda was. Al-Qaeda had an actual like they promoted, this is our leader. Whoever's running Antifa, whoever the organizing principle is in Antifa, is a brilliant individual. And I know right now all my MDEF fan is like, it's George Soros! Okay, but here's my point. Because there is no recognizable leadership, the phrase Antifa is not an organization, it's an ideology, has some rhetorical effect, right? So now, how are you going to enforce this anti-Antifa stuff, Mr. President? Because there is no place where you can point and say, that guy's Antifa. Even if the guy is walking around in all black clothes with a black, whatever, that doesn't make him Antifa. Like, these guys don't have cards.
Right.
So,
right.
What do you mean they're a terrorist organization? And a couple weeks ago, when these crazy right-wingers, when they were all kitted up and they were marching because they wanted to have haircuts because of the COVID situation, he said that they were very good people. He's very good people, and that they were angry and they had a right to protest. He was able to see past what they were doing and see what they were angry about. Now, as I've said about the COVID thing, I don't think the COVID thing is as simple as saying, look at these idiots, they just wanted haircuts. I mean, look, businesses are being destroyed, small businesses are being destroyed, and suicide rates are going up at an exponential rate.
Domestic violence.
So, look.
Mental health. There's a lot.
So keeping people cooped up and all that, they had to do the little airsoft exercise. I understand. What I'm saying is, Trump was able to sit back and look beyond what they were doing as far as how bad the aesthetics looked, and look inside of what they were doing. And again, what was the point of these mostly white people who were protesting? Why were they all running around with their rifles? What was the point of that? What were they implying? What was the implication of all these white folks running around with their rifles? Mr. Trump?
We'll kill you. But they're good people.
But these are good people, and you don't feel that you need to deploy the National Guard on them. And now look, if you ever wanted to deploy the National Guard, we're in the middle of a pandemic, right? So these guys could be posing a threat to national security, right? But you on Twitter, you said, well, they're angry and they need to be listened to. So how come you're able to look past all that craziness and the fact that these people literally put our lives in danger to do their little protest? How come you're able to look past that, Mr. Trump, but you're not able to look past what's happening here? How come you couldn't talk at length about the fact that these police officers are arresting reporters, dragging people out of cars? I just saw another video where a cop had a kid detained, spit on him during this whole COVID situation. Yesterday, spit on the kid. You got, as I said.
The cop did the spit?
Yeah, the kid was on the ground, the cop spit on him.
Come on.
There's the other video where the kid's wearing a mask, the cop comes up, pulls the kid's face mask down and sprays him in the face with the mace. The kid wasn't even doing anything to him. So Trump says nothing about that, tweets nothing about that, but now you're going to go out and deploy the National Guard. Look, people are going to say it's because Trump is a Nazi, racist, fascist. I don't think things are that simple. I think, I said it in a video a couple, videos ago on another channel that we do, that violence is a very quick way to solve a problem.
Yeah.
It's an extremely quick way to solve a problem. You can get to A to B a lot quicker with violence than you can with actual logic, discussion, and understanding. Okay? So, when we were coming up and we had a problem with a group of guys or whatever, they had a problem with us, going out and doing some violence was the way to solve the problem. And if we were able to dominate with violence and the problem was solved and we won, and then vice versa.
Right. That's
how it goes. And I just think a guy like Trump, who, had a small loan of $1 million, when he was a kid, and, all he is used to, I think he's got negotiation skills. He must. He wrote The Art of the Deal and all that. But I don't think that in his mind, he's looking at this as something where he could apply those gifts of negotiation. See, if Trump would look at this as a business matter, then he would probably have the greatest response of anyone if he looked at it as in a business context where he had to negotiate a deal. But he's not looking at it that way. And the other thing is, with Trump, if he didn't like somebody, they're fired. Right? If somebody's working for him and they're not producing, you're fired. Or, he's a millionaire, he doesn't like this guy, get out of here. Yeah. Like, he's just used to snapping his fingers and solving a problem. And the only people that he feels that he needs to negotiate with are other millionaires and billionaires. So these group of people, he doesn't look at as being on his level. So he's not even thinking about negotiating with these people. Yeah. He's looking at these people as, hey, there's a problem. We got to stop this problem. Can't let this happen. And the fact of the matter is the police state works for Trump. I mean, the police. I can't
imagine being in the military and being deployed to that.
Yeah, I was talking to a guy one time. He was actually in a pretty elite unit, and we were talking about police. That's when I was assigned in Houston, and he was talking about police states and stuff like that. But it was during the Obama administration. He's like, during his selection, one of the questions that was asked is if he would ever violate posse comitatus, which is basically the military being deployed against American citizens, and a couple people from his unit that asked that question were part of the Waco, Texas thing. Yeah. Remember Waco, Texas? And the ATF went out and did all that, whatever, and the ATF got blasted out in front of the media, and then they dressed up a couple guys from a certain unit in the military and sent them in as ATF agents, and they really weren't. So anyway, he's doing selection. He passed the course and all this stuff, and then wow. So they have a psychological exam, and there's this little thing, and one of the questions they asked was, well, it's not even would you do that. It was, in what circumstances would you violate posse comitatus? And he told them there's no circumstance in which I'd violate posse comitatus. And he got sent back. He got rolled back. He had to do it again. Which, and I said, he made it again, which is almost impossible. Like, this guy's selection course was pretty ridiculous. If people heard what these people go through, unbelievable stuff. He said, hey, you should. I said, nah, I'm good right where I am, buddy. But anyway, I said, so they asked you again? He said, yeah. He made it to the unit, and then he went and asked his other buddies, and they were like, yeah, we all answered that. They're like, we would never do that. I don't know if they would never do that or not. I don't know. Yeah. Because I see certain situations, I'm like,
wow.
I don't know. So there you go. He's in trouble.
Yeah.
He's in trouble. Because now people are like, hold up, wait a second.
Yeah.
He had a real opportunity here to really help this nation, heal this nation.
Pretty freaky.
And the fact of the matter is, and this bothers me, but black people don't really need much. Black people are willing. These black folks are so gullible. You had that police chief out there, and he was kneeling with them, and all silly black people crying, oh my God, so beautiful. And then right as they're about to start marching, the sheriff goes, I don't even want this to be a protest. I want it to be a parade. Exactly. So you didn't really need much.
I mean, honestly, how can I vote for him?
Really?
How can you vote for someone like that? And when you think about it, stop and think about his response. His response is all about control. And so he's going to do whatever he needs to do by any means necessary to get these people in line.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because the very reason why all this keeps happening is because it keeps, like, it's repeat of the same thing.
Yep.
Black men getting killed, and it's not justified, and then nothing happens as a result of it. So instead of dealing with the problem, he goes and tries to control the way that people are trying to say it. And right off, like, this is just happening, right off, he's trying to go to control. People didn't go to that right off. They tried the kneeling, they've tried the, peaceful protesting and all that stuff, and it's getting bigger and bigger because people are not listening. But it's unbelievable to me, like, how can you have any judgment for the people going and rioting? Because what they're doing is they're trying to take control of the situation. They're saying, you're not listening to us, and so we're gonna do something to get our voices heard.
Yeah.
But then Trump is doing, like, I don't think that he's justified in the way that he's going about it, but he's going to control too. Well, how can you condemn somebody else?
Well, yeah, and again, I don't believe that it's wise for black people to destroy their own property, to destroy black businesses where we know how hard it is to create a small business and how much work and sacrifice it is. And I think some of these celebrities, billionaire celebrities who are saying, we'll pay for bail. Great. Well, also pay these black small business owners who have had their livelihood ruined. Pay for that too.
Yes, I understand. But like, if my family and my kids were getting killed and I had to just keep watching this happen and happen, like, at what point do you want to go rogue? Yeah.
Right-wingers are on this particular topic are completely hypocritical and blindly hypocritical. Here you have, we are being told to watch people that look like us and our sons get killed on camera. We're told that we're supposed to watch that, and we're just supposed to eat it.
Yeah.
And we're not supposed to respond in any sort of violence. But the minute somebody breaks their window, they're ready to kid up and go out and kill people.
Yeah.
But white people are not socialized to you see, here's what happens is that when a black person says something about, systemic racism or anything, they'll say, oh, you're just being a victim, right? So when they're treated unfairly, they kill people. They're like, oh, you're gonna destroy my property? Okay, stay right there. And they go and they kill people, and they go, that's right, hey, Second Amendment. And they'll say things like, oh, the Second Amendment is not for hunting. It's not even for home defense. It's for when you have to deal with a tyrannical government.
Yeah.
Okay, so Micah Xavier, a couple years ago, after the Eric Garner thing happened, he went out and he shot up a bunch of cops. Is that where you want him to go? Because you don't want dudes to play victim anymore. I agree with you. Black people shouldn't play victim. And I don't believe that black people should destroy their own property. But if we are going by the tradition of the founding fathers, I don't think that you would be happy with those ramifications either.
No.
Right? You don't want a bunch of Xavier Micahs running around. But you know what's interesting? You don't want a bunch of rioters running around. You don't want protesters running around. And you don't want Kaepernick running around. So it just seems to me that a lot of the messaging I'm hearing from the white community is, man, y'all just got to eat that. Mm-hmm. Well, people aren't going to do that.
No, it's their kids, their husbands, their brothers. Like, you can't just keep doing that and expect people not to say, I will burn this whole fucking town down.
That's why I keep telling black people not to watch that stuff, man. Because I personally had to talk people off the ledge. Because dudes are getting ready. People are ready to kill.
Yeah.
And the issue is, it's like Farrakhan said, people would, you get to a point where you would rather die than live in that type of circumstance.
Where it's like
me personally, I'm not going to say everything, but I'm never going to end up as a George Floyd. You're never going to see one of those things with me. And I'm never going to sit and watch something like that happen and tape it. Right. Those are just things I've decided within myself. Take that how you want. But yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying. And, it's a fascinating case study in a lot of the double standards that happen. And
I felt like I was taken back in time.
And it shows you, you know, the mentality of some folks. Now, I don't think that everybody on the right wing, I just think people are very, very complex machines. And I think that, you know, there's blind spots, there's assumptions, there's white supremacy, which most white people have that don't even realize it. Look,
Yeah.
if you go to a school, if you're raised from the moment you're in kindergarten, and I'm not even completely against this, by the way, what I'm about to say, but if you're told in kindergarten that your country and your ancestors fought, overcame the British, industry, yada yada yada, World War II, yada yada. You're socialized, and then the only thing that you're taught about your black classmates is that they were slaves. Mm-hmm. So they don't talk about, hey, these guys built pyramids, and hey, these guys Timbuktu and the center of education and finance and and you're not taught. The only thing that you're taught about black history is a transatlantic slave trade. It is impossible not to be a white supremacist if that's how you're done. Yeah. It's one of the reasons my black boys will never be in a public school. Mm-hmm. Because I'm not going to teach them. I'm going to teach them the other things that their people have done in the cradle of civilization, and you know, like Brother Minister Farrakhan says, you're the original man, and you're the derivative, you're the original from which everybody else derives, because those are facts. That's science, right? Lucy, check her out. She wasn't Nordic, so you know you have to you have to understand. That's why you can't really. I don't really get offended. And people misinterpret a lot. I say, "Oh man, you're a racist." Like I'm not. I don't think that that's the worst sin in the world. I think that that's it's. I don't understand how it's possible that you would not be one if that's how you were socialized. Yeah. In the same way that I don't think it's possible that a man in any given society can't have some form of chauvinism inside of him. You have to. How is it possible? Like you're some superhuman person that is immune to social programming? Come on. Of course, as a man, you're chauvinistic to some degree.
But I just don't understand how you can see these videos in it and put a laughing emoji or doing stuff like that. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, because these people.
Like, how can you be that evil?
Well, yeah, I mean,
like I understand.
Most Republicans are not putting laughing emojis on these videos. It's not most of them, but I hear what you're saying. Most Republicans aren't like that. Most Republicans aren't saying this is funny, but they are saying these are animals. We need to, you know, yada, yada, yada. And they are more concerned about the destruction of property than George Floyd.
They're all over the place talking about the stuff. I'm like, stop talking about the stuff.
Yeah, they'll say, oh, yes.
How many posts are you going to put?
It's
How
terrible.
many times are you going to tag me in these videos?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? I don't care about the stuff.
Yeah.
I care about the people and the situation that got us in this position in the first place.
Yeah.
Until you start dealing with that, you're part of the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's so many of these things that happen that it's impossible.
Look right over what you just said and go back to the rioting, how it's a crime.
I know.
Well, what do you think that kneeling on someone's neck and killing them is?
Yeah.
Is that a crime?
Yeah, but if you would have really took Kaepernick seriously, we wouldn't be in this situation. You know what I mean? You wouldn't be in this situation if we took Cap seriously.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know... But again, Trump, what did he do with Cap? He said they were sons of all the guys that were kneeling. He called them sons of bitches and all this. This whole situation could have been avoided. Now, let's not confuse
Which is extremely rude, by the way.
Let's not
because he insulted their moms while he was at it.
Well, yeah. I mean, let's not confuse this, though. Amy Klobuchar had a chance to prosecute Chauvin.
Yep.
And she never did it.
Nope.
Huh?
No, she didn't.
So you didn't think I was going to let that slip by, huh? That's what happens. That's a system. And now Klobuchar and the rest of them, Klobuchar got out in front, and because they escalated it to second-degree murder now, and they charged the other 3 cops that were just stupidly watching because, you know, there's just one bad apple. It's like I've been saying all the time. It's not one bad apple.
Nope.
It's one poison apple. The poison apple will kill you. The bad apples will sit around there, and then they'll watch you get killed.
I can't believe that. It's unbelievable.
The good apples are the exception. Like I said, you've been seeing all the little rigmarole of all the police actions here, and you'll notice that there's always one crazy one, and then the rest of them are just standing there passively allowing their brother in blue to go out and do all types of crazy shit. Or trying to block
the camera of the person who's recording.
Correct. Or take the girl's cell phone.
Yeah.
You evil motherfucker. Anyway. Yeah, man. Terrible stuff. Terrible stuff.
Honestly, though, after seeing that, there's got to be something major to happen. I can't vote for him now.
Yeah, I mean...
That, to me, is the move. That is way, way, way too controlling. This is America.
Yeah.
You're giving everybody a 7 o'clock curfew, saying you're going to send the military on our citizens.
Well, this is America. I mean, America has always done this with black people. I mean, look at the COINTELPRO during the Civil Rights Movement. Yeah. America did their absolute best to take down Malcolm and Elijah Muhammad and all the rest of it, because they didn't want a, quote, black messiah. So this is standard fare for America. This did not get invented with Donald Trump. So many people are completely ignorant of American history. Anyway, that'll come out next year, because there are certain files that the agency has to release after X amount of years, and they're going to be released next year. So I'm sure we'll be able to have more discussions. But anyway, it's unbelievable stuff. It's unbelievable stuff. But look, at the end of the day, I don't think that this stuff is really going to materialize. I think there's enough pushback. The Rising just did a show where like people are overwhelmingly in support of the protesters or whatever. Mm-hmm. The other thing is that there's too much cell phone video of people saying, no, we don't want you to do this. You got John Jones taking the spray cans away from the white vandalizers. You got so many videos of there was one in Seattle where he had this white guy, probably an Antifa guy, and a bunch of people slammed the kid on the ground, yoked him up, and then dragged him to the police. So I think it's impossible for the right-wing narrative of, oh, these black guys are just animals, you're running around destroying the thing. Like, fair-minded people are looking at this and going, well, I was about to shoot a video, really like lighten up Antifa, and I decided against it because there's too much information about right-wing groups posing as Antifa to try to instigate a race war. So I was like, you know what, I don't really have a good handle on this, so I'm not saying anything. I will say, though, that fuck Antifa. I'm not a fan of Antifa in any way, shape, or form. And to me, these guys are, I was talking to one of their folks, and this motherfucker had the nerve to try to lecture me on Martin. Go fuck Antifa. As far as a political movement, I think they're just a bunch of, privileged white kids who want to, feel like they're doing something significant in the world, but don't really pay any real costs. They're not paying any real costs.
Right.
At all.
Right.
So I don't want, God help me with these people. Literally. Help me, Lord. Between the Republicans and Antifa, I can't take it, Lord. Anyway, pray for me, y'all. Pray for your boy. Trying to hold on to the Jesus stuff. But anyway, I was always a holdout on Trump. I wasn't really, I was like, just something I couldn't, and then here you are, but again, I don't think it's as simple as, oh, he's just a racist, fascist, da-da-da-da-da. I just think he's intellectually lazy. I think he watches too much Fox News, because he literally, there was a story that came out where he literally made certain decisions after watching Tucker Carlson. And on the one hand, it was the Iran thing. And on the one hand, I was like, oh, that's good. And on the other hand, I was like, wait a second. And I think this is what happens when you're only around Fox News and the only black people around you are coons like Candace Owens or whatever. And, Candace Owens just pushed out a video that said, I don't support George Floyd and I refuse to have him as a martyr, but I hope his family gets justice. Whatever that means. So when you're surrounded by people like that, then you end up saying stuff like this, and you don't have the self-awareness to realize that what it looks like to common people. And I think most of America is like, well, wait a second.
Yeah.
The National Guard? Anyway.
Fullest extent of the law.
Help us, Lord. Love your neighbor.
Take care of each other.
Middle America.
We are the media.
Till next time, guys. Maybe. Or I might die inside a street. Who knows?
Stop it.